Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, TheLaval, also known as the Power To-Do List, back for you with another episode of Straight Out of the Toolbox. And this one is kind of an OCG special I was actually really looking forward to be able to talk about Dinoruffia just this fast after they basically got announced, because these cards aren't actually out in the OCG, I think, because Battle of Chaos is set when they release and it's still a week off. But I still wanted to talk about this deck because I think it is really cool. And, you know, just to share some initial thoughts with you guys. Starting off the deck list at first are our main deck monsters. First off, we have Dinoruffia Theresia here. When she's normal or special, you set a Dinoruffia trap directly from your deck, and if your life points are 2000 or less, she gains 500, and if she is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish a trap from your graveyard and special summon a level 4 or lower Dinoruffia from grave. The floating effect is really nice on her, and essentially already you see a gimmick develop. This deck is focused on keeping your life points below 2000, because then you are able to get additional effects out of your cards, and some of your cards become better the lower your life points are. Also very nice about her, if she is normal or special, she sets a Dinoruffia trap directly from your deck, which means she cannot be ashed, which is really cool. And essentially the next and only main deck monster, Dinoruffia Diplos. If he is normal or special, you can send a Dinoruffia card from deck to grave, and if your life points are 2000 or less, you burn your opponent for 500. And he also has the same floating effect as Theresia, which means these two actually form a really cool consistency duo, being able to float into each other on your opponent's turn if you have one left on your field. But the main advantage of these is that they also trigger if you destroy them with one of your card effects, which is really cool, especially considering that cards like Torrential Tribute and Needle Sealing are rather decent at the moment. I play a playset of Effect Veiler. This list is a bit more budget-oriented, since I would like to get this deck once it drops in the TCG, because I am very hyped about this, but you could probably play any hand trap in this slot. Play 3 Fossil Dig, basically our rotor for the deck, since these are dinosaurs for some reason, but I am not complaining. 3 copies of a reinforcement of the army are really nice. Budget part, mentioned before, Pot of Duality. In a more competitive build, you will probably swap this out for a Pot of Extravagance or a Pot of Prosperity. Extravagance would require you to, you know, focus the extra deck a bit more on your archetypal cards and run 3-offs of a lot of your extra deck cards. Pot of Duality is fine, but it can leave you in some tough situations on turn 3 onwards, as those are like the times when you will most likely do special summons, or you will need those. Torrential Tribute just here as a generically good trap card, trap trick by preference. I only run one, since if I run multiples, I always draw them. Or just, you know, as the 40th card in this deck. 4th copy of Torrential, really nice. And then we get into our archetypal stuff. We have Dinoruffia Domain here. During the main phase, you pay half your life points and fusion summon a Dinoruffia fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion materials. Really powerful fusion trap, by the way, since we are using monsters from the deck, essentially enabling us to easily go into Cantrigena and Stealth Bigia. And just like all the Dinoruffia normal traps, if your life points are 2000 or less, there's the gimmick again, you can banish this from your graveyard when you would take effect damage, and you do not take effect damage this turn. Next up, we have Dinoruffia Alert, another normal trap, which means it protects us from effect damage if we have 2000 or less life points. You pay half your life points to activate this card, special summon up to 2 Dinoruffia monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 8 or less. But for the rest of this turn, they cannot declare attacks. Also, you cannot special summon except Dinoruffias. Really cool card. Initially didn't run this because I did some testing with Foolish Burial Goods, but didn't find that too impressive in the deck. This is a really good card. Definitely undervalued it. Just being able to recur both main deck monsters, getting both effects to trigger on your opponent's turn again. Really powerful after you dump them off domain. Very cool. Also nice to recur your fusions if you are only running 2 copies. Dinoruffia Brood, another normal trap, means it protects us from effect damage. This is a pay half your life points, destroy both a Dinoruffia monster you control and a card your opponent controls. Nice part about this, it doesn't target, and it also triggers your main deck monster effects. we run a small Solemn Brigade of 3 strike, 3 judgment. Judgment is basically a staple in this deck as it halves your life points on activation, which means you get closer to 2000 life points, which is really what you want to do with this deck. Next up, we have the next archetypal counter trap in Dinoruffia Sonic. When your opponent activates a spell or trap while you control a Dinoruffia, you pay half your life points, negate the activation, and if you just do destroy that card, then you destroy a Dinoruffia you control, also triggering the effects again. This is a Dinoruffia counter trap. Those counter traps, archetypal counter traps, protect you from battle damage if you have 2000 life points or less, which is really cool, to be honest. And the next archetypal counter trap we are running is Dinoruffia Reversion. If you control a Dinoruffia fusion monster, you pay half your life points, banish a counter trap, notice a generic counter trap from your graveyard. This effect becomes that counter trap's effect when that card is activated, and the battle damage protection. Really cool card in general. Just being able to copy stuff like Strike and Judgment really helps the deck, makes you a good bit flexible, and helps you interrupt your opponent's plays. Getting into our extra deck, we run 2 copies of Dinoruffia Kentragina. This is kind of your offensive fusion, I guess. Takes 2 Dinoruffias with different names, so, you know, we got those. Notice she is 4k, but she loses attack equal to your life points, so she becomes definitely better once you start reaching those lower life points. During the main phase, you can pay half your life points, banish a Dinoruffia normal trap, best target being Brute or maybe an alert sometimes, and this effect becomes that traps effect when activated, which is a really cool ability, to be honest, enabling you to essentially Brute twice on a turn. Also, when she is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Dinoruffia from your graveyard. All of these float, which is really helpful in being able to kind of recursively be able to generate resources, which is very nice, but she is definitely really cool in her offensive role. Then we have the defensive fusion, and probably the one you want to make first, Dinoruffia Stealth Begia. 2 Dinoruffia monsters with different names, again, and while your life points are 2000 or yes, or 2000 or less, not yes, you do not pay life points to activate trap cards or Dinoruffia monster effects, and the following effects are hard once per turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can burn your opponent for that monster's attack, and if this guy is destroyed by battle, he also floats into a level 4 lower Dinoruffia monster from the graveyard. So both fusions float, have some really neat effects that help the deck. Rest of the extra deck is basically just, you know, optional good stuff. I run some super poly targets as it is a very good side deck card for this, as you do have main deck Darks, which makes you able to go into Starving Venom. You can have access to the entire rank 4 toolbox. I have a Utopia and the Lightning here just to showcase that. And you also have access to Evil Zalagia and Evil Zardolka, which are 2 really powerful Xyz monsters that are not to be underestimated. Generic Nightmares or Links in general can be fitted into the deck to your liking and depending on what kind of pot you are running. But I'd say, you know, a Nightmare package has never hurt any deck. Talked about Extravagance Prosperity, probably what you want to run for your consistency if you are taking this deck to the next level. Super Poly is a good side deck card, as well as Needle Sealing might also be an option you want to consider. Generic staples that are currently viable, like Ash Blossom or other hand traps, Crossout Designator, or Ice Dragon's Prison are also appreciated. And if you want to go a bit extra, you can definitely experiment with, you know, some of the more generic Dino cards, as Soul Eating Oviraptor has some great synergy with the deck as both trigger on effect destruction, and, you know, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is just a house, and Miscellaneous Saurus is a very strong card. So yeah, definitely a really cool new fusion archetype the OCG is getting in the near future, and we, I think, in February next year. But I'll probably show you guys some replays now so you can see what this control deck has to boot. But in general, this seems like a really cool strategy, even though you definitely need to be careful once your life points reach that 2000 threshold. And here we are with the replay I have for you guys. I'll see how long this takes, and depending on that, we will see more replays. This is against my friend playing DDDs. Of course, going first, just setting 5. There is not a whole lot this deck does without siding. going second. I think Pancratops is a very good side deck card, but in general, for going second, you're gonna have a bad time. Activating the domain here to go into Stealth Begia, which is in most cases the first fusion you want to make, to kind of enable you to chill on those 2000 life points and not have to pay for those spells and traps if you are negating your opponent's plays. Also using the alert after that to retrieve the Resia and Diplos for additional value. And yeah, going into the second domain here for a Kentragina. You know, the second fusion you want to make, as it is the more offensive focused one. We are going to Diplos here, summoning back the Resia, grabbing a copy of Sonic, as we have a reversion in hand, which is going to be very big, to say the least. He is going to Dark Contract with the Gate here, which I will Kentragina, banish the Brute to copy that effect. Going into Diplos, pop the Dark Contract so he doesn't get the value off, and this Pendulum Summon is going to prove very devastating for him, as we are going to flip a reversion, banishing Solemn Strike to completely negate that Pendulum Summon. Luckily, I had the reversion engrave here to banish and take no battle damage, because those 6k damage from the King Laplace could have been very devastating. Nightmare Phoenix here to pop the back row in case it is something scary, Torrential Tribute wiping the board. But we are able to, you know, recur that Diplos, going into another copy of Kentragina, but he still has the DDD Chaos King Apocalypse in the graveyard to block one attack. Kentragina will pay 500 here to summon more from the grave, setting a Brute again. We still have the Sonic set, and here he will hit the surrender button. In general, a very straightforward control deck. You are able to set up a lot of interactions very easily. Kentragina helps you really well with closing games just in general. As you've seen, Stealth Begia turn 1 is a very solid play, but the main problem is making that Stealth Begia stick. Depending on the length, I will probably reconnect with you guys in the deck editor to kind of give you some final thoughts on the deck. And with that, I am back with the deck, I guess. What else do I have to say then? I am really hyped for this. I think this deck is so much fun, even if it's a bit, you know, living on the edge. But I think the deck definitely has tools to prevent yourself from losing games to like a stray cowboy. But the problem is, as I've discussed, I think, with someone on Twitter already, you know, you can definitely use to a stray cowboy. On the topic of Twitter, I have a Twitter account. You will probably see it on screen. I will leave links down in the description below. So if you want some updates on maybe, you know, what's currently happening with me, maybe some cards I got in the mail, because that'll probably be the most stuff I'd share, definitely leave a follow there so you can keep up to date with me. But back onto the deck. Yeah, I mean, Stealth Begia is a very cool play turn 1. Just being able to not care about, you know, the cost for your trap cards as soon as you've resolved your second one. Which is why you want to kind of speed run those 2k life points a bit. Kentragina definitely able to not only interrupt your opponent a fair bit, but also reuse powerful trap cards as domain and alert to extend your plays and gain you additional value on your turn. So yeah, it is definitely looking promising. This goes out to all the better players out there. Please do not buy this deck until I have bought it, because I would really like to play this. But yeah, in general, let me know down below what you think of this list and the deck in general. And I will see you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.